Healing Light takes you on a journey where you'll explore the nuances of energy. You'll visit the angelic realms and study the ancient wisdom and teachings of spirituality. We want you to reach within and discover the magnificent being that you came here to be. We help shine God's divine healing light by bringing love, light, and blessings into your world. And now, here is the host of Healing Light, Teri Van Horn.
Hello and welcome to Healing Light. This is Teri Van Horn, and I want to thank you all so very much for being here with us today. Now, I apologize profusely for my throat. This ongoing thing is just not letting up. So maybe today's little discussion is going to be appropriate about life after death. So even though I don't really anticipate going anywhere anytime soon. But I do want to thank you all for being here and for putting up with the sound of my voice, because I know it doesn't sound great right now. Now, those who don't know me, I am a spiritual mentor and teacher. I provide intuitive readings. I also am a medical intuitive and provide distant healing. And yes, it is possible to do distant healing on other people and not be able to do it very much on yourself. So it's one of those things that a lot of us have to work with. It's the same thing about being able to be intuitive and picking up messages for other people very easy and very clearly, but sometimes it's harder to pick them up for ourselves directly. So the whole intuitive and energy work thing is really kind of unusual, and it has its quirks sometimes, but it does work beautifully. And the best thing is that I am still able to provide sessions for people. Even though I may sound like this, at least I'm able to continue to work and to help others. Now, you can find all the information about the services that I provide and the things that I do on my website at healinglightonline.com. You can also find lots of information on my Facebook page, which is also called Healing Light Online. That'll give you information and also will help hook you up with specials that I am doing right now for intuitive readings and personal readings. So, I am able to do it on the phone or on Skype with everybody. So check those out. And also on the website, I've even written up the next 2 months worth of radio programs and what they're going to be about, so you can see kind of what's coming up. But today we're going to talk about life after death. Because so many people are afraid of what's going to happen once they die. Nobody that I know of is really looking forward to dying and crossing over. And there is a lot to really consider whenever you are dying and crossing over. But I wanted to share some of my experiences with you and information that I have gained from others about this whole phenomenon and what really happens. I've had a few instances and a few situations myself where I've had what we call exit points in my life. And I think the earliest one was probably at about age 8, 9, 10 years old, whenever I actually was trapped in some rapids and was going down fast. But some kids pulled me out. And I was just beginning that whole process of, what's going to happen, if I really drown here. As I got older, I didn't really have any other exit points. My teen years or my early 20s. But around that time, which was in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a lady by the name of Betty Eadie. And she wrote a book about life after death. She was one of the first people that I'm aware of who came out and started talking about this totally bizarre experience called a near-death experience. And trust me, people thought this woman was crazy. But she got a book out. It ended up actually on the New York Times bestseller list. She had all the talk shows and all the circuits during that time period. And I believe that's how I initially found her before I read the book. And when I read her book, it felt right to me. Now, I don't know how you can actually explain that, in your mid-20s about how this book about dying feels right. But it really did. And the thing about Betty is that she brought this out. And she started the conversation about near-death experiences. Later on, I had the opportunity to meet her. And wonderful lady, great spirit, very funny whenever she's talking about this entire thing. And, so she took it as a learning and growing opportunity. And I will never forget that whenever she was doing a talk I was listening to before I had a chance to go meet her, she kept telling everybody that the reason why she came back is because that she had a very special purpose in life. She didn't know exactly what that was, but that she assumed that it was to be able to, share her message and to share what she had experienced. And she wrapped it up by saying, if I died tomorrow, then obviously one of you out here were the reason why, I accomplished this and I died. So thanks. But she was very, very funny. But she was also very sincere. She was authentic in talking about this. The book was very authentic, but yet the person herself was. She talked about what it was like to kind of like go into this tunnel thing, to go to the other side, to be greeted by loved ones, to be greeted by angels, and the experience of love and everything that we now understand as being part of the death experience. Now there are books, there have been movies about it, all sorts of things. But thanks to Betty, this has been one of the other things. Another person that I absolutely, totally look up to, particularly when it comes to the death experience, is Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Now, she is phenomenal. She has worked with people in hospice, I think, her entire career. I know for a very, very long time. And she wrote wonderful books about how to help them as they go through the process and how to help them cross over. Now, it sounds strange, but it really is one of the most beautiful and loving things that you can do. I was in a situation whenever I was in my early 30s. My grandmother had been extremely ill, and, she just really wasn't getting any better. She was at the hospital. She'd been in the hospital for a while, and it was the local one, so my mom knew everybody, and, people were constantly in and out. And my mom would call me every once in a while, about every 2 or 3 days, saying, "This is it. You need to come." So I would load up and, drop my daughter off at daycare or whatever and go up to the hospital. Well, this has happened about 3 or 4 times. So, this one particular time, which happened to be the last time, I almost didn't even go. But I did because I knew I'd feel guilty and everything else. So I get up there. My grandmother's laying in bed. And she doesn't really look that bad, honestly. She's laying there and she's like, "It's time, I'm ready." And honestly, she could have won an Academy Award this day, okay? I got to put that out there because she really could have. The big, heavy sighs, "I'm so tired, I want to go." And I started talking to her based on the information that I had learned from Betty Eadie and Elizabeth Kubler-Ross about helping loved ones as they transition. Now, my mom and my uncle are sitting the other side of the hospital room, basically kind of worthless. They're, already in the grieving process and crying and all of that. But I'm over there talking to her really matter of factly. I was like, okay, so like, what are you feeling? What are you seeing? What's going on with this? And she'd tell me, which all corresponded to the information that I had learned. Maybe, there's relaxing, lights, warmth. A couple of times she mentioned some of her siblings, that she had seen some of them. So I was like, okay, yeah, go on over there and see her. She's here to help you. Now, this should be a really, a major event. It's emotional. It's very charged when someone is about to cross over. But she would go and do these big sighs, tell me a little bit, and then her eyes would pop open. And she would say something like, I need to fix my hair. Or another time it was, she looked at me and she said, what do you really know about this anyway? And I mean, she would challenge me. She would just, it was so funny because she would go in and out, back and forth. One time she popped her eyes wide open whenever I really thought she was about ready to go. And she looked over at my mom and my uncle and said, don't you two fight over my stuff. It was actually, you could not have written a better comedy routine than this whole process of my grandmother bouncing back and forth between the sides. This woman wasn't going to let up control for anything. But finally, we had so many people coming in and out of the room while I'm doing this. She was worried. So then she's going and asking for the minister. And her regular minister wasn't available. So they got this really young assistant minister who just couldn't even understand what it was that I was like talking about and trying to do and help her with. My mother thought that I was crazy. My uncle was really pretty laid back about it.
This is OTR FM, part of the IOM radio network.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Do you want to be a better communicator? Do you want to better connect with the important people in your life? Do you want to enrich your relationships? If so, join me, Matthew Cooper, on the Positive Control System Show every Wednesday evening at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on OMTimes Radio. I'll meet you there.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
This is OTR FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Hi, this is Teri Van Horn, and you're listening to Healing Light. We're talking about life after death. And I've been talking about the experience when my grandmother was crossing over, because it really wasn't your traditional kind of experience. We were talking about things. We were discussing things. She would pop back and forth, in and out. But that experience taught me a lot. I actually went through this process with her for over 2 hours. And it was, part of it, honestly, was her stubbornness. She didn't want to let go. This woman liked to be in control of everything, and she wasn't going to budge. So I got to learn a lot from that. My previous time of being at someone's side when they passed was my dad. Now, my father was my dad and my best friend. He was my champion. And, he was the person there for me all the time, no matter what. So whenever he was dying of cancer, first of all, it was a shock because we had been told that he had at least a year or two to live, probably longer. We'd been told that 3 days before he died. But I was at his side the entire day as he had started getting ill and going downhill. And I stayed with him until well afterwards. Daddy and I had talked a lot about Betty Eady, the things that she had talked about with these near-death experiences. And we had talked a lot about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. He was just, even though I grew up and he grew up in a Southern Baptist church, he was very open about all of this kind of thing. And he was willing to see it from all different sides, which was a great influence for me. So we would talk about these things and, like what it was like or what these people said it was like to die and the experiences. Now, when my dad passed, he did kind of go into not really a coma, but, a completely unresponsive state for a little while before he died. The entire process was just a few hours, and it was very calm, peaceful, beautiful, and loving. But the best part was after I got home. We did everything at the hospital that was supposed to happen. Daddy died around 2 a.m. And by about 4, I was at home, in bed, and actually I was at peace because I knew he was at peace. And that was what really mattered to me. He'd had cancer. It had been a very unpleasant ride. And his death was beautiful and peaceful. So I was happy about that. I was very relieved that he was no longer going to suffer. But I'm laying in bed, and it was pitch dark in my room, kind of dozing off, not thinking of anything in particular that I can recall. But all of a sudden, I can still go right back to that experience. Laying in bed, all of a sudden, the corner to my left, in front of me to the left, it kind of lightened up. And I heard my dad's voice. And, very simple, very to the point, just like Daddy. He said, "It's just like they said it was." And then the corner faded back into darkness. No more voice, no more nothing. And I'm laying there now, wide open, wondering what the heck just happened here. Because that was like the most amazing thing that I'd ever experienced in my life. I wasn't mourning him. I was in a sense, but, I wasn't having the falling apart mourning kind of thing because I was so relieved that he was on the other side. And I had a very strong belief about the other side. But to have him tell me that was like probably the greatest gift that he ever gave me. It was amazing. Because after that, I was like, I knew that the things that I was learning and I was sensing and experiencing were right and true. And so I just went on with a tremendous amount of faith through everything. So that's how, a few years later, I went through that almost comedy routine with my grandmother, who kept popping back and forth, in and out. About after 2.5, 3 hours with my grandmother, trying to decide what she was going to do and how she could control everybody from the grave if she did choose to die. She did finally relent. And rather than dying, she went into a coma for 2 days, and then she crossed over. But her experience also taught me a whole lot, because she would tell me some different things that she would see or hear. And that helped me further understand more about what goes on the other side. Now, I've also been very fortunate to be able to meet and talk to some other people who are highly, highly experienced in this area. One is the amazing John Holland. John is an incredible medium. And, he picks up information like crazy. And John taught me a whole lot about that in a very short period of time. Honestly, I could just go and spend hours or weeks listening to him. He's very, very gifted. But, he told me a lot of different things about what happens to a soul and a spirit after it dies. Because that's what people are so worried about. It's like, what happens? And so John and I've talked about it, about how, once you die, you're not completely crossing over. You do spend a lot of time around with your loved ones and to help them and to support them. Sometimes, if it is a quick event, it's unexpected, an accident or something, it may take that soul a little while to figure out that, hey, this is not me anymore. This is different. But then they do go ahead and cross over, make that commitment, and then they go through a whole transition. Almost, to me, it's like soul university. Because what they do is that they go through and connect with that guardian angel and those guides that they've had ever since the beginning of time. We connect with them and we learn a little bit more about what our mission was, because now, since we're on the other side, we know everything again. We've gotten rid of that amnesia problem. And we're able to discuss, okay, this was my objective. This is what I did. How could I have done better? Or, wow, what a great job I did. Or, oh my gosh, I really blew it. We go through this whole reevaluation, this analysis sort of thing. And we kind of come up with, this is terrible play on words, but whenever I used to be in project management, once the project was completed, you had a meeting that we would refer to as a postmortem. It was like, okay, project's done, it's put to bed. Now let's go through and really hash it out. And that's kind of what happens on the other side. Now, also, I do not see heaven as being this little magical kingdom, with castles and who knows what out there. It's more like another dimension, meaning that it's not too terribly different and far from here, but it's just more intense. So much more intense. In many different ways. Colors are more beautiful. Feelings are, so much more wonderful and loving. That it's a really great, supportive place to be on a higher dimension. Now, one of the really fascinating things that John told me about connecting with loved ones from the other side, which honestly I don't do a tremendous amount of. I do it on occasion. But he told me that the best way to do this is waiting at least 3 months after they've crossed over. Now, the reason for this is because it gives them the opportunity to kind of get settled and relearn the ropes over there. So what happens is they die, They hang around here a little bit to be with loved ones and family. Then they go over, they're kind of doing their evaluation thing and learning the ropes again. John says that if you try to connect with someone before that time period, then they usually have not gotten kind of the whole process down again. And if it was a really unexpected death or something like a murder or suicide, something like that, it may take them even longer to process. Because then their soul was going before it was time. And they have a lot of other things to deal with. So according to him, if you try to connect with your loved one before that, you're generally going to be connecting with an angel or guide who will be acting as like a translator or interpreter for you. Whereas if you wait 3 to 4 months, then your loved one will be able to come back and to connect much more deeply with you. Which I thought was really fascinating because I never thought about a timetable before. So if you're, if you've lost someone and you are wanting to connect with them, basically you've got like probably about the first few days, and then they're busy for a while. And you need to wait about 3 or 4 months so that you really can get that connection one-on-one. Now, during that time, they're doing their review. They're doing their own healing. You've got a lot of healing to do after you've been here on the earth for a while. So they do that, and it helps them so that they can learn and grow and be the best that they can be. When we get back, we're going to talk about some more. See you in a minute.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
The name is Bond. James Bond.
No, the name is Joe. The Joe Show. And we are returning back for our 9th season here on OMTimes Radio. So tune in every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, on OMTimes.com/mobile. You can take us wherever you go. Yeah!
Matt Connerton here. Join Jen Coffey and I twice a week for Matt Connerton Unleashed, a political talk show that's a little different than what you're used to. No liberal or conservative agenda here, just an honest dialogue about truth and how things really work in the world of politics. Matt Connerton Unleashed, every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Hi, this is Teri Van Horn, and you're listening to Healing Light. Today we're talking about life after death. Now, as I had told you before, I've had several exit points myself. Opportunities where my soul could have said, we're done. I've been through quite a few in my life. But only one time do I actually recall anything at all from what happened. But I know that I've been over on the other side several times. As a matter of fact, I went out on a limb one time. A friend of mine's husband had been seriously, seriously ill for many years, in excruciating pain. This man was being tortured by his own body. And, he was tortured. He couldn't let go. She was tortured. The kids were tortured. Everybody was suffering so much as this man just teetered on the brink. And she called me one night and she's like, I don't know what else to do. And technically, I have to give her credit. She did everything as a spouse and partner that you should do. She told him how much she loved him, but that he needed to go, and that was okay. That it was fine with her that he let go. She would be okay, and she knew that she could connect back with him, and that they would be able to connect together. And they were both very spiritual, so, wasn't a hang up about that. He wasn't afraid of really dying. He just wasn't letting go. So I told her, I said, okay, look, I don't know what else to do. I've connected with his higher self. I've connected with him. I've done healing. I've done all these things. I said, the only thing that I know to do is maybe just go hand in hand with him and we'll take that walk. And of course, she was like, oh, no, you can't cross over with him. But I knew that it was going to be okay. So I did it. Went into a very deep meditation, met up with him, and we went hand in hand down that tunnel, across the bridge. We were right there. Gave him a big hug, told him I loved him. She loved him. The whole family loved him. And everybody's going to be great. This is going to be okay. And the family is going to be so happy that he was no longer in pain. That was like the greatest gift that he could possibly give his wife, is that she knew that he was out of pain. We said our goodbyes. I turned around. I came back across the bridge, doing all my stuff. Turned around. He was following me like a little puppy. I was like, but no, you're supposed to stay. And we did it another time a little bit later on. And he still changed his mind, decided he wasn't going to stay yet. But the coolest thing is that when he did decide to go, it was awesome because I happened to be outside at the time. And I have beautiful hawks and all sorts of amazing birds of prey that are around. But never do I have eagles, except for that day. There was an eagle that flew over. And you could hear its cry because it's very different from the other birds. And as soon as that happened, I knew that that was him, because he always wore an eagle pendant. And about the time that I got in the house to call her, she had called me and told me it was time. And I said, yep, I know. He just came over. He just came by to say hello, and that he actually finally did it. And he did come back to her. They did connect and talk, and everything was good for them. So I've done that. I've done it on my own, unintentionally, but I have. But every time I've always came back because I had something else to do. And I am, be completely honest with you, when I came back, I wasn't crazy about coming back. It's nice over there. It's nice. You may not remember details sometimes, which I only remember very few details. But it is a warmth and a feeling of love like you will never feel in your entire life. The closest that you can get to feeling that emotion and that amount of love is the first time you hold your child. It's the only thing I can compare it to. Even though holding my grandchild for the first time, that was pretty good too, as he was born. But, you know, it's that good. It's that major and that intense. Now, I have met a lady who is absolutely amazing. She is so sweet, genuine, sincere. She is the real deal. And I have recommended her book to, I don't know, thousands of people I know already. Her name is Anita Moorjani. And to spell that, it's Moorjani. Anita wrote a book called Dying to Be Me. Excuse me, I'm sorry. This book is so powerful. Anita had a near-death experience. And her experience was amazing. And now, of course, I'm being compromised so that I can't tell you how wonderful it is over there. Anita had cancer. And basically, I'm not going to read the book to you or tell you all the details, but she had gotten to the point where she was too weak to do anything. Her husband took her to the hospital, and the doctors were telling her, there's nothing to be done. Basically, they're saying, like, tonight's the night. Anita's body started shutting down. But while her body's shutting down, the doctors are talking to family members are flying in. She's seeing it all. She's hearing all the conversations. She's with her brother on the plane as he's flying to be with her. And she talks about what an amazing experience it was to feel it and the emotions that she went through it. Now, not only could she see and understand everything that was going on around her, whether it was in the building, the room, or in a plane thousands of miles away, she could sense and feel the emotions. And all she wanted to do was to get through to her husband, her mother, her brother, her whole family, and say, it's okay. This is like the best thing ever. You know, she didn't feel like anything was like too weird, but at the same time, it looked like she was in a coma, but she was all there. She wasn't in any pain, and she was like ecstatic. She wanted her family and her loved ones to know, hey, I'm not in any pain. This is great. She wanted to comfort them and to help them as she went through this process. But the amazing thing about it is that Anita says in her book that she didn't feel like she had physically gone anywhere. She said that she felt more like she was awakened, that she had been like woken up from a really bad dream, and that her soul was finally understanding how magnificent it was. Think about that. I mean, that right there has got to be a pretty amazing experience, you know? And she said, love, joy, ecstasy, and awe poured through me and engulfed me. I was swallowed up and enveloped in more love than I ever knew existed. I felt more free and alive than I ever had. And suddenly I knew things that weren't physically possible. I knew conversations between the medical staff and my family. And I knew that all these sensations were in a realm of their own. And there were no words to really even describe how I felt. But she keeps saying the feelings of complete, pure, unconditional love was unlike anything she had ever known before. That this love was unqualified and it was non-judgmental. And it was totally undiscriminately, as if she didn't have to do anything to deserve it, nor does she need to prove herself to earn it. Imagine feeling that way. That has got to be amazing. Actually, I have felt some of that, and it is amazing. Now, during her experience, her dad came back to her because he had already crossed over. And he was there, and they communicated telepathically. They didn't actually speak words. And she was elated to see him. He was elated to see her. And he let her know that he had always been there for her and the whole family. That he had always been around for everybody. She also was able to connect with her best friend who had died a few years before. So for her, it was like this amazing, reunion of these people that she loved that she had lost. Also during this time, she sensed the presence of many others around her, even though she didn't really know specifically like who they were. But she felt so much love. And she said that although she wasn't able to feel her physical senses, she had unlimited perception. It was like she had a whole new sense that had become available and was more heightened than any of the others. She could see 360 degrees and had total awareness of all of her surroundings, and everything was just beautiful and normal. When we get back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the things that Anita said in her book and in conversations that we've had. And I want you to know what an amazing and beautiful place it really is. We'll be back.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hi, this is Sylvia Henderson, intuitive life coach and energy healer. Are you ready to elevate and rise way above your normal? Be sure to listen to my show, Intuitive Transformations, on OMTimes Radio, Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Get the inspiration you need to transform your life.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
After death. And I've been talking about this amazing book by a beautiful, wonderful woman by the name of Anita Moorjani. Now, Anita had the most intense near-death experience ever. There are a lot of people who have had them. I've had them. But hers was so clear and so vivid that she can go through and tell you every single step of it. The feelings, the emotions. I mean, she had an awesome experience. She says that her awareness was heightened beyond belief, and that everything, the entire universe, suddenly started making sense. She understood it. She knew why she had to have cancer, and she just was so amazed about everything that had happened and everything that had gone on during the entire process. Now, people who are skeptical can say, boy, she wrote a great story. And she did. Except that for Anita, this was more than just somebody writing a great story. Because, I mean, it's definitely right up there with some of the best science fiction you'll ever read. But you see, with Anita, the thing that makes her so special and so unique is that she has so much documentation about the entire process. See, one of the things is that she had been so extremely ill for so long with cancer. She had, medical files, that looked like mountains. She had a huge team of doctors, all these people taking care of her at this hospital that she did not know because she was taken to the closest hospital when she was going through all of this. She did not go to her regular doctors. So there's a lot of stuff that happened in her experience that help to validate it a little bit later on. But I want to tell you a little bit more about some of the things that she experienced. She, first of all, experienced herself as a wonderful, magnificent person. It was like her pure essence existed, even though things didn't go so well with her physical body. And she never knew until this moment how magnificent and wonderful she really is. She saw her life path. And one of the things that she realized about it was, why have I always been so harsh with myself? Why was I always beating myself up? Why was I always forsaking myself? Why didn't I ever stand up for myself and show the world the beauty of my own soul? Why was I always suppressing my intelligence? I mean, all these things. She's seeing it, and she's wondering why she didn't do this while she was here. So that right there gives us a good guideline of what we need to be doing for ourselves. Okay? Take care of yourself. Stand up for yourself and honor yourself. See, she had such an amazing sense of clarity during this entire experience that she really understood things, and she realized without a doubt that we are all connected. Everything is all woven together. People, animals, plants, everything. And that and this part is really important, and I'm going to read it from her book. She said, I also understood that the cancer was not some punishment for anything that I had done wrong, nor was I experiencing negative karma as a result of any actions as I had previously believed. It was as though every moment had infinite possibilities, and where I was at that point in time was a culmination of every decision, every choice, every thought of my entire life. My many fears and my great power had manifested as this disease. That is a powerful statement. But as Anita went through this process, she learned that whenever we come back, her thing is to live fearlessly. There's nothing to be afraid of. We need to get out there and be fearless and to expand and to grow. Now, the most amazing thing about Anita is that, as I said, she didn't know the doctors. She didn't know the medical team. None of that. But yet, when she came out of her coma, she not only knew people's names, but she recanted the conversations that they had with somebody else down the hall in another city, wherever. She told her brother things about what had happened on his flight to come to see her and to be there. She had complete recognition of the entire process. Now, the most amazing thing is that after she came out of the coma, she was ready to eat and she was ready to do some things. And she told the doctors, well, I'm well now, so, we need to move forward, basically. And, it's like, I want dinner, I want this, and let's go. Now, Anita's definitely not somebody who's running around as a diva. But what happened was, in a very short period of time after she came out of that coma, her cancer was like stage 4 all over her body. It was gone. There were no traces. Tumors disappeared. There was nothing left. I've seen pictures of Anita whenever she had it. And she was just skin and bones. Just completely wasted away. And as I said, she had a mountain worth of medical records to go with it. And then she had a mountain worth of medical records showing that she went in full, complete remission and everything disappeared. How do you explain that? That's one of the reasons why her story is so powerful. And it is so valid because people understand. And there is validation that this happened. That's the best part about it. So doctors, researchers, everybody has been working with her to try to understand the whole phenomena. Now, whenever I had a near-death experience a year ago, unfortunately, I did not have the clarity that she did. I didn't get to see Dad, but I saw one of my key guides, and he was the one who told me I had to come back. So I'm not holding it against him. A little disappointed, but it's okay. See, but the main thing is that with experiences like this, with Betty Eadie, with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, with Anita, these women have very detailed experiences. I don't, but that's okay. Part of my reasoning is because I had a semi-hysterical nurse constantly trying to wake me up. So that messed things up for me. I didn't get to remember a whole lot because I had this nagging voice. And that's okay. She was trying to save me. She was worried as well, so I'm not upset about it. I got the important stuff out of my experience. But the main thing is that we want you to know that it's a beautiful experience. It is loving. You're going to be loved over there like you can't possibly imagine. As she says, there's no judgment, no nothing. We are all one, and everything is just, one big, huge love fest. So how awesome could that possibly be? There's nothing to be afraid of. And, some people have said, based on near-death experiences, that they have seen a darker side. The majority of people who have had this experience have not seen a darker side. All they have seen is unconditional love. And I think that sometimes, in some instances, maybe that darker stuff that people think they see might be something else. Might be a little bit of the hallucination sort of thing, because everybody else otherwise has the beautiful, very similar story. So I share these things with you, not to encourage you to rush out and get over there as quickly as possible, but to let you know that it's okay. It's a beautiful, wonderful, loving place. You get to see your loved ones. You get to connect with them, whether they've crossed over or not. And they want you to know that they are okay, that everything is fine, and it is happening according to God's divine timing. That's what matters. We will go when it's time for us to go. But they just want you to know that when you do, it's all going to be amazing and beautiful and wonderful. So don't worry about loved ones that are over there. They're having a great time without you. And that's okay. If you do want to learn how to connect with your loved ones who are on the other side, there are several different things you can do. There are some wonderful, very, very gifted and talented mediums who can help you. Or you can connect with Archangel Azrael. And Azrael will help you connect with your loved ones and get those messages back and forth. So thanks again for being with us. Next week, we're going to talk about developing your intuition. I wish you much love, light, and many, many blessings. Namaste.